Hello everyone and welcome back to another Wizard101 video. I know it's been a hot minute, but I'm back. The other day, KingsIsle released the spring update and I was like, wow, this is the perfect time to make a video. Now, what kind of sparked the idea to make this video? I woke up about 2 days ago and was surfing the Wizard101 subreddit, as I sometimes do. Now, the Wizard101 subreddit is a horrible place. I don't recommend going there. It's kind of just a cesspool of people asking if their stats are good for this level and complaining about Ratbeard, which, I mean, fair enough, I guess. People want to know the answers to those questions and potentially vent their frustrations, but it gets a little old. But anyways, that's besides the point. I woke up and I was surfing and I discovered something crazy. The spring update had released and they added a new change that I found quite concerning, and a few other people did as well, but I really was like, this is a crazy change, and I kind of want to go over that. Now, what is this change, you may ask? What they did is they made it so that no matter what school you are, you can now train the spells that were previously exclusive to each school. Obviously, at level 48, 58, 68, 88, I believe, and then you can see that they added King Artorias here. There was previously unique spells for each school. So as you can see here, Fire had Fire Dragon, Ifrit, Rain of Fire, Sun Serpent, and then the Fire King Artorias. Now, as you can tell, I'm on my myth right now. I can train these spells up now. They added it so that you can now train the unique cards from other schools. And this immediately sent off like alarm bells in my head. I'm just gonna come out and say it. I think that these unique spells that each school had were the very last thing that was holding together school identity in this game. It was the last thing that truly said, okay, this is what school you are, is what 7-pip AoE you're using or what spells you're using, because really it is. So today I want to get into that. I want to talk about why this kills school identity, how it killed school identity, and really why I think in this game at this current stage, schools don't mean literally anything at this point. So without further ado, let's get started. First, let's talk about why school identity is so important and kind of what schools are in an MMO. In every MMO, literally any MMO I've ever played, I'm sure most of you can agree, there are different classes that you can pick at the beginning of the game. Each class offers a different kind of bonus and a different aesthetic as well. I can remember as a kid when I first played Wizard101 and opened the Book of Secrets to make my character, I remember picking Fire because as a kid I was always like, that is such a cool aesthetic. And I'm sure most of you agreed with that. You picked whatever you thought was the coolest. Upon replay, you probably learned the strengths and weaknesses to each school and picked what school you thought was the strongest or what school you thought was the most interesting rather than for aesthetic. Either way, you picked something that made the school a school. In other MMOs, you have different classes that offer different benefits. Like, you know, there's the classic archer, magic, barbarian kind of archetype, right? And that kind of defines what makes different classes in this game, something that separates them from other classes. Now, for the longest time in this game, that was true. There were differences between each school. For example, obviously, Storm was incredibly weak in terms of health, but had extremely high damage. It had low accuracy to compensate and kind of was seen as a glass cannon kind of school, right? And then you had something like Ice, which had a massive amount of health, a massive amount of resist, but very low damage. And that's kind of blanketed how it was for the first two arcs of this game. Now, recently, KingsIsle has kind of changed this and went further and further away from what made schools unique, in my opinion. So where did they first start going wrong with this? In my opinion, around Darkmoor/Dragoon Gear, they made it so that each school can get a massive amount of damage. Obviously, they could before. Realistically, it was better to focus on what made your school unique. So Ice, it was better to focus on resist, life, health, and resist. You get my point. But with the addition of Dragoon Gear and then later on the gear sets after this, they kind of removed that. I know that on my Ice around level 130, I could get up to like 160 damage, which was insane at the time, given that the highest amount of damage you could get was about 200% on Storm. storm, and other schools also were sitting around the 160, 170 range. My point is, this is when they started deviating from what made certain schools pop. While on ice, you could still focus on that resist stat, they changed it so that you could too have an insane amount of damage. And this has kind of further been reinforced as time goes on. Like you can see, I have 230 damage on my myth here, which is about the same as what a storm, fire, death, life, ice balance could get at this level. Almost every school can get up to this high 200 range, 220 to 240 range. At this stage of the game, with the enemies that they are releasing, with the health that these enemies have, 230 damage is enough to, without a doubt, beat any enemy in this game pretty effectively. Doesn't matter what school you are, you could be the hitter in a battle. This is vastly different to how it was in the past. If you all kind of remember back to Darkmoor, back when level 100 was the level cap and we farmed Darkmoor, you needed a storm or fire wizard to hit. That was necessary. If you were a life or ice, you were slotted into the support role. That's just how it worked. Same with balance, obviously. Nowadays, it does not matter who hits. Anyone can hit, and anyone can be almost just as good as other schools at hitting. So that's the first wrinkle in school identity, in my opinion. Where did the second come from? School pips. Recently, KingsIsle introduced something called school pips. They made it so that with Archmastery, you can change what pip you get, and that is treated as a power pip for that other school, and you can now effectively use other schools. This was done purely so that you could potentially dual school things, and they also made it so that there was the newer spells which have the other school pip attached to it. In my opinion, this was a cool idea. It was implemented extremely poorly, with the fact that whether you gain a school pip or not is based on other people's Archmastery rating in the duel. That automatically made the system completely stupid, in my opinion, and kind of invalidated it. So like, for example, you can see here, I have extra Archmastery rating. This is just purely so I can screw over the other people that join my battles, and I gain an Archmastery pip first, because I want to be able to be the one that hits. But we got a little bit off topic talking about how bad I think the Archmastery system is. Let's go back to why this removes school identity. This means that any school can use any other school's spells. And obviously, this was kind of a step in that direction where any school can really beat any other school if they want to. So for example, if you are a storm wizard who has trouble with that low amount of health, you can choose to use death spells instead. But obviously, this wasn't truly an effective thing yet because you didn't have full access to other school spells. You'd have to use treasure cards if you truly wanted to show off the strengths of that school. Well, that comes to modern day, March of 2024. They have made it so that you can now access almost every important spell for other schools. What I mean by that, 7-pip AoEs. Obviously, 7-pip AoEs are the crux of this game. It's all that anyone uses because they're the best spells in the game. So basically, to sum it up, they kind of in 3 stages moved away from school identity, and nowadays they made it so that any school can use any spell that they want to. So now that you have all the background and I've kind of outlined my whole thought process, why is this a bad thing? And why do I think school identity is officially dead? Well, if you add all of those things together, every school can be a hitter. Any school can use whatever the spell they want to. Any school can get up to a massive amount of damage in another school if they want to, get up to that 230 range, and gain the ability to hit. Basically, schools doesn't matter. Whatever school you are doesn't matter. The only difference between schools in the modern setting are slight differences in health, pierce, and resist. That's the only thing that changes, because every school has an equal amount of damage. Every school has the ability to gain 100% accuracy so they never fizzle. At the same time, every school is able to reach 100% power pips, so they always gain power pips. It does not matter what school you pick, because realistically, at this point, it is just a template. You can do whatever you want. And obviously, I think that this is a bad thing, because at this point, if you wanted to, you could realistically pick ice and become a storm wizard. You could use whatever storm spells you want to, and at max level have equal damage to a storm, but have the health of an ice, the health and resist of an ice if you wanted to. Honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, that might be not a meta pick for soloing, but it's definitely an option for soloing. I mean, imagine like at the current level having 14,000 health with 70% resist, but you also have 200 plus storm damage and access to Stormlord. There's really no reason to be any other school, right? That's kind of what I wanted to make this video on and kind of outline my point. What do I think they could do to fix this? At this point, not much. I think realistically, they made it so that at the current meta, at the max level 170, doesn't matter what school you are, because basically any school can beat every other school at the same time. So that's really it for this video. That's what I wanted to outline. I'd like to know your guys' thoughts on this. I just think, obviously, everyone has a different opinion, and you could think that this is a good change. I don't honestly think it's purely bad that you can beat other schools. I think it adds an interesting wrinkle to the game, but at the same time, I think that it kind of reminds me of when I was a kid, how each school was a unique and different experience. Nowadays, it's really not. Nowadays, it does not matter what school you are. So again, leave your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure to hit the subscribe button and the like button if you enjoyed. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Adios.